Tēnā tātou, ko tēnā ngata tōku e ngai huri tēnei no marae hara no taura whāro nā he mokopuna nā paratene ngata raua ko he ni te o paipa ko piniha tōku pāpa tēnā tātou. I'm going to move right into it if we can get up to the first slide. Yeah, so I'm here to talk to address the board and the hui in relation to Statoil and Chevron and Ngāti Porou AGM and the impacts upon our own fisheries and our own coastline. Just to give a little bit of background, Statoil are currently operating, if you can see there in the grey area, which is off Te Ikaroa. They're currently carrying out seismic testing in that area looking for oil, gas, petroleum deposits. That is under the permit that they have received through Chevron through the 2016 oil block offer. The 2017 oil block offer is currently on the table. It's actually the deadline has just passed for submissions in relation to it, and that will extend all the way up the coast to just off the coast from here. The 2016 oil block offer, of course, I'd like to acknowledge, was objected to by Te Rūnanga Ngāti Porou, objected to by GDC, objected to by a number of hapu iwi along the eastern seaboard. However, they went ahead and gave the permits out anyway, as they always do. So the seismic air gun surveys are going to be happening from now until next May, if we can move on now. So just to give you a bit of background onto what seismic testing is. Seismic testing essentially is a means of prospecting for oil or petroleum. In this case, it trails a long kind of rod behind a boat, and in this case it's the largest seismic survey vessel in the world, the Amazon Warrior. And it emits a seismic boom every 10 seconds. How loud is it? It's between 180 decibels to 220 decibels. 180 decibels is about the sound of a jet engine. 220 decibels is about the sound of a pound of TNT going off. That will be happening every 10 seconds from now until next March in the water. So that will bounce down into the seabed and it will send information back to them about pockets of oil, gas or petroleum that they may be prospecting for. And of course it impacts on everything that it passes. You can pass on to the next slide now. So those impacts include, of course, there's the map. There are some of the oceanic migratory pathways for our whales, for our dolphins, for our seals. Of course, some of our fish species are migratory fish species. So it impacts upon all of them. It can blast out their hearing, and a deaf whale is a dead whale. They require their hearing to be able to feed, to find their way, to find their breeding grounds, to make their way along their migratory pathways. Of course, we also have our tuna and our native species that migrate along those pathways as well. There's also up there, there's been reports from around the world of commercial fisheries that have been negatively impacted upon by seismic testing, not because it blasts the fish out per se, but because it impacts upon their larvae, the breeding grounds and the larvae that are in the water and along the seabeds. I've included research for the board to have a look at, and in some of that research, up to 85% of the larvae that have been exposed to seismic blasts have wound up developing malformities. So it has significant impacts upon the eggs before they grow and winds up driving the catches down. It also has, I've also included research that shows that there are significant impacts upon our invertebrate shellfish, particularly coda, who wind up in their stress state not being able to open or close their tail in the same way, which means that they're not able to escape predators very easily. So it also impacts upon coda and other shellfish invertebrates. If we can move on to the next slide. So if you can move on to the next slide, thanks. So whether or not it causes earthquakes, the science overseas states that it's safe and that it doesn't cause earthquakes. But what we also know that the Environmental Commissioner, Dr. Jan Wright, has said is that the East Coast Ngāti Porou AGM is geologically distinct, and just because something is safe overseas doesn't mean that it's going to be safe here. So you have to have distinct and targeted research in relation to the Tai Rawhiti for geological disturbances. What we do know, what the science is in on, is that drilling impacts upon seismicity, so drilling can induce earthquakes. So our point is that if you can't safely extract it anyway, then there's no point prospecting for it. And again, that research is also included in there. The next point that I just wanted to make also is that the proposed depth at which they are going to be drilling at, and which they are prospecting for, is deep ocean depths. It's far deeper than any current drilling operation. 125 metres is the deepest drilling operation in Aotearoa at the moment. The proposed depth for this one is up to 3 kilometres into the sea, and Maritime New Zealand does not have one vessel that can help to clean up a spill at that depth. We have 3 vessels, none of them can help to clean up a spill at that depth, and incidentally the Gulf of Mexico oil spill was at half that depth at 1500, and they had huge problems trying to clean that up, and that has also recently been linked to earthquakes and seismicity under the soil. So what we've done, next slide, thank you, is that we have developed a petition and to go to Norway. Now, Norwegian Parliament are 63% shareholders in Statoil. They are the majority shareholders in Statoil, and so we are petitioning the Norwegian government to remove Statoil from our government, from our waterways and from the east coast. We have drawn upon the many objections of hapu and iwi that have already said that they don't want this happening in their waterways, and we are making it very clear to the Norwegian government that the Statoil presence along Ikaroa and into Tai Rawhiti is not welcome and is not consented. That's also going to be forwarded to the Sami Parliament, who are at the moment taking out a joint action litigation or lawsuit against the Norwegian Parliament for Statoil practices and extraction. What I would like to ask of the Runanga is that they join the 70-odd hapu and iwi who have already lent their names to support and endorse the petition, that it also gets endorsed from the Runanga o Ngāti Porou. And if anybody else would like to endorse it, you can also come on as an individual signatory as well. Then you can come and see me and I can put your name down as an individual. But kia ora, that's my request. I think that was 5 minutes. Kia ora.